Good PM friends. You saw the title. Today we're going to be talking about the Wahoo Elemnt Bolt V2. Oh, what a mouthful. So from now on we're just going to call it the Bolt V2. Instead I want to talk about this Bolt V2 from my own perspective, which is a casual, recreational, non-competitive, I'm not an athlete, kind of perspective, which I think is the category that most people fall into. So let's get started. For those who have been following my channel, shout out to the 51 of you out there as of today. I made a video a few months ago about the XOSS G+, which is this really cheap and I think good cycling computer that I think is good enough for most people out there. And my itchy backside went to buy the Bolt V2 instead. Anyway, if you want to watch my review of the XOSS G+, I'll have it linked down below. I think you can also click up there. First, let's talk about the pricing, because this Bolt V2 isn't exactly cheap, considering the XOSS only costs like $50. I know this is like a totally different product, but it's sort of like in the same product category, so don't mind me, if I make the comparison. I know it's like comparing a Toyota to a Ferrari. For many of you out there, I'm sure this will be the first thing that sticks out, the price, whether or not it is worth shelling out 300 USD for a cycling computer. And I'm gonna say up front that this Wahoo computer is a huge step up compared to the XOSS. I mean, rightfully so, it needs to be so. It needs to be much better because of how much more it costs. The screen is easy to read, it is super customizable, it has lots of features, it has advanced connectivity, you can see even the battery level on your pet sensors, yada yada, there's a lot of features. A few features that I really like about the Bolt V2 will be, first and foremost, it has Wi-Fi built in. That means it is able to sync all your rides, all your routes, whenever you're connected to your home Wi-Fi or any known Wi-Fi hotspots, which is great, right? It means you're not that reliant on your phone. You don't have to do it manually, you don't have to remember to sync your rides, or your routes to your phone, and vice versa. Second of all, it's this screen that is very easy to read. It's not just a monochromatic screen, it is also colored. It's sort of like a, how do I put it? It's like a Game Boy, it's like an Amazon Kindle. So it's an e-ink display, I suppose, that also has colors. But of course, the color is not going to be very vibrant. It's not a typical LCD or LED screen. Yeah, but it also makes it a lot easier to read when you are out there riding under very bright condition, like under the sun. That also means that you also get great battery life because the backlight doesn't have to be on all the time. And perhaps I think the biggest strength of this bike computer is its ability to be customized. It is so customizable. Every feel can be customized. You can choose what you want to see on the screen. You can even remove some data that you don't need, so you're not stuck with, let's say, you're not stuck with a page full of data that you don't need. You can move them around, you can remove them if you want to, and if you want to see more, you can zoom out and see more data fields. If you want to focus on just maybe 2 or 3 data fields, you can do that as well, just zoom in on the fly. This is the biggest advantage that the Wahoo Bolt V2 have. Next, let's talk about turn-by-turn navigation. I think this is also a reason why I bought the Bolt V2, and I'm sure most of you out there who are considering the Bolt V2 probably have navigation in mind, because that is something that the cheaper bike computers can't do. This Bolt V2 allows you to, it has turn-by-turn navigation, means it's sort of like Google Maps with directions. You can show you your route. You can preload route from Strava or Komoot inside, so that's cool. It syncs automatically. On top of that, it's also able to reroute you. So let's say you go on the wrong path, you deviate from the route, it will tell you how to get back on route. In my experience, it works as intended. It doesn't exceed expectation, but at the same time, I think at times it also falls short of expectation. Like sometimes the rerouting, it brings you on routes that are not accessible, or they are not the fastest way to get back on route. If you are in a place where you are familiar with, then you will be able to tell that sometimes the route that they chose or the reroute is not the fastest one or the most efficient way to get back on route. Of course, if you are riding in places that you're unfamiliar with, then it beats not having the option. At least it is able to bring you back on track. On top of that, the LED on the top also gives you visual cues, so it will tell you where to turn left or right quite easily. So at a glance, you know whether to turn left or right. Now, speaking of the map, another cool feature that I was really looking forward to is the ability to see other Wahoo riders live on the map. Means when you look at a cycling computer, right, you should be able to see where the other riders are, provided they are using a Wahoo cycling computer. So me and my friend actually got one together, and I was quite looking forward because, you know, sometimes during rides you tend to get split up, and then so, you know, without calling or texting your friend on your cycling computer, it'll be great if I can just see where he is on the map now, so I know how far he is away from me or how far am I away from him. But you know, this is so, it doesn't work all the time. You know, sometimes I see him, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I see nothing on the map, which is weird. If you have used this and you have experience with it, please let me know your experience down in the comment section. I would love to hear them. Now, as a cycling computer, you know, it is able to pair with a lot of sensors. You know, your heart rate, your cadence. It can even pair to your wireless shifters if you have them. It can pair to the Wahoo Kicker, which is an indoor trainer. What else can you pair with? A power meter. Yeah, I think that's about it. So yeah, you can pair with a lot of stuff if you have them. Whether or not the readings are accurate, I would think that they're accurate. You know, the pros use them in all the tournaments and like Tour de France, blah blah. It should be, at this price point, they better be accurate. Hardware performance wise, I mean, speed-wise, I feel that this is something that don't quite live up to its price point. You know, at close to $300 US, it is significantly more expensive than other bike computers out there, and it is not snappy. You know, when you press and toggle cycle between the pages, it actually takes like more than a second for it to change page. So after you press, you do have to wait for a while. It's not an immediate thing. It is not a deal breaker, because when you're cycling, you know, you don't really cycle between the pages all that much. Overall, I would expect the Bolt V2's performance to be snappier, you know, especially when navigating around the screen. And so that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on the Bolt V2. You know, it always comes down to this question, right? You watch these reviews because you want to get an answer of whether or not you should buy it, or you are trying to justify your purchase. I have two questions for you. The first question is, do you need turn-by-turn navigation? And the second question is, do you have a power meter or a Wahoo Kicker? If your answer is yes to any of these two questions, then yes, you should buy the Bolt V2 or a cycling computer of this caliber at around this price point. Reason being, if you're cycling in places that you are familiar with, then you already know, let's say you are cycling around your neighborhood, then you don't need this turn-by-turn navigation, right? This is a useless feature. But if you are constantly exploring new places, or you are going on very long cycling trips, like, you know, around the island, and you are unsure of, you know, where to make your turns or where to go, then yes, the turn-by-turn navigation can come in handy. Otherwise, I think it is it will not be useful to you. And the second question is whether or not you have a power meter. And you also need a cycling computer that supports, you know, power meter, and also a cycling computer that have the means or the features to showcase your power output. Like, for example, on the Wahoo, you can see a graph on it, which is cool, right? And you can't do that on the cheaper bike computers. If you have a Wahoo Kicker, then, you know, it goes without saying that this is a good product to have, because it works seamlessly and integrates into your indoor trainer. And I also know that the first two questions is not exactly very relatable to the majority of you out there. So this is the last question that I have, right? Do you have too much money that you don't know what to spend on? If your answer is yes, if you have too much money, you're just looking for you know, things to buy, then go ahead. I know a lot of cyclists, they have very expensive bikes, right? You spend a few $1,000s on a carbon bike or your brand new ride, and you want to find, you know, you want to upgrade stuff, you want to spice things up. And you feel that, you know, this XOSS $40 don't go well on your Dogma F12. Right? It doesn't look good on your Tarmac SL7. So you are constantly looking for things to buy to match your bike, and you feel that by buying a cheaper bike computer or cheaper component, you are not doing your bike justice. And if you fall into that category, go ahead, please. You know, if you have the cash, go and buy the Bolt V2 or whatever. You know, you want to buy the most expensive Garmin 1080, I don't know what's the latest model, go ahead. But if you are a cyclist that is riding a bike, maybe you're not so happy with your bike's performance, you are riding a bike that's not so expensive, then maybe perhaps you can spend the money on stuff, on other stuff that can improve your cycling experience more and live with a cheaper bike computer. For example, you can spend the money on a more comfortable pair of bib shorts, jersey, or even change your wheel set, which will change your riding experience, your ride quality significantly. Yeah, there are better things to spend your money on than to spend it on a cycling computer. This Bolt V2 won't change your ride quality, right? It won't change the way you ride. It won't make your ride more comfortable in any way. So if there are better things to spend your money on, if you already have a decent bike computer, right, like the XOSS, then perhaps you should spend the money on some other stuff. And we have reached the end of the video. Hopefully you have a better idea on whether or not you should buy the Bolt V2. If you like what you see, consider subscribing, give me a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or comments, drop them down in the comment section down below. Yeah, till then, I'll see you maybe 3 months later when I feel like making another video. Yeah. Alright, stay safe and ride safe. Goodbye.